Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vivi Martinez, and today I'm here with the lawyer Lizette Sierra.
Pleasure to be here to answer your questions today.
Thank you so much. And so today it's just an informational video about the visa, EB3 visa. Okay, so I'll start off with my first question. What is EB3?
EB3 is a category by which an individual can obtain his or her lawful permanent residency, which is your green card for 10 years, through an offer of employment. It can be an offer of employment for a professional position, or it can be an offer of employment in a non-professional position. For example, any type of manual labor, agriculture, packing, cleaning, janitorial services, things of that nature. And the professionals, there's a whole range, obviously, can be positions that require bachelor's and/or master's degrees and years of experience, of course.
Great. How can an immigrant find a U.S. company to sponsor them?
Well, that's the hard part, is finding the sponsor. It's just like anything, anywhere else, research, looking online, looking at different web pages that cater to those individuals or companies that are searching for individuals for their positions, and doing those types of searches as well as with the government. You can use the workforce agencies. Local cities also have offices that help people find employment within the local community. And you can also use recruiting agencies that help you find employers throughout the United States and even abroad. This is a practice that you see everywhere.
Perfect. So who can qualify for this type of visa?
Basically anybody, because if it's for a position that's not professional, obviously it doesn't matter whether or not you have experience or degrees. You just have to have that intention to take on the position that's being offered by your potential employer. If it is for a professional position, obviously you do have to meet those requirements, whether it be experience and/or degrees.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Approximately how much does this process cost?
Well, that depends. The immigrant cannot pay any portion of what is, or with any of the fees associated to the employer for paying their attorneys for the labor certification itself or filing the labor certification, nor can the immigrant pay any of the fees associated with the costs associated with recruiting, which are basically advertisement in local newspapers and professional journals, as well as web pages and whatnot. All those costs are borne by the future employer, and the immigrant can pay for the immigration process once a labor cert is approved. However, it depends. Some employers pay the entire process.
Thank you. Now, is the visa EV3 or the EV3 visa a discretional visa like the F1 for students or the B1 for tourists?
Well, there's always a discretionary component in the sense that your EB3 can be approved. It's a three-step process. First, the labor certification, which is filed before the Department of Labor. That is done by your future employer. They are responsible for that again. And then the process with immigration is twofold. You file a petition for alien relative with the United States Citizen and Immigration Services. And once that's approved, then you either file for adjustment of status, which is changing your status from whatever status you have in the United States, whether it be an investor's visa or a transferee or anything that you may have. You would file to change your status to a resident within the United States, and that it has a fee of up to $1,225, and the petition for alien relative has a fee of $700 with Immigration Services. However, attorney's fees vary. It can be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. Generally speaking, it can be more. It can be, that's just an average.
Thank you. And now, on behalf of the political climate that we've been having recently, within the last 2 years, has the processing for the EB3 visa changed under the new administration?
Not at all. The only thing that's truly changed is the interview process at the consulate, because they're really investigating and ensuring that the individual who is immigrating to the United States is a person of good moral character. That's why it's very important that the intending immigrant be very forthcoming with his or her attorney, because if you've had any run-ins with the law, if you've been ever arrested, even if the arrest did not finalize with any conviction, the fact that you're arrested needs to be disclosed to the immigration or to the consular officer. If you've ever been denied a visa, if you've ever gone for an interview before a consular officer, this is all important information that your attorney needs to know, because if your visa was denied simply because you weren't able to show that you had strong ties to your country, for example, if you were petitioning or requesting a visa for tourism, that's not a big deal, because it was denied because they just thought that perhaps you would not return to your country. It was not denied because they believed that you had committed a crime or that you had lied when you spoke to that officer, because sometimes people may fudge the truth and not give all the information that they should give at a consular interview. And if that's the case, when you go for your interview before the consular officer for your residency through this labor certification approval, that officer can deny your application based on discretion if they think that you're not worthy of their discretion. So there is a discretionary component. However, if you have had no issues with the law, if you've never lied to an immigration or consular officer, and you truly are intending to work with your future employer, you should have no issue. Again, no process is ever guaranteed with either immigration or the consular office.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for answering that. Can a person apply for EB3 if they are in the United States?
They can, only if they are within lawful status. So the process takes between a year and a half, a year and a half, 2 years between your employer filing the labor certification with the Department of Labor and between filing the petition with immigration and the adjustment of status as well, or consular processing if you are abroad. That's why it's very important that the person have valid status. Now, a tourist will not be able to do this process while in the United States, even though they are legally here, because your intention upon entering the United States with that B2 visa is tourism. So if you entered and then extend and then file for adjustment of status based on a labor certification that you filed while you were here, obviously your intention was not tourism. So you cannot do that. You have to go home and you have to wait for the process back home. That doesn't mean you can't use your tourist visa. You can come back and forth as long as you're not spending too much time in the United States, because tourists do not live, 6 months and go a month and come back. You will eventually lose that visa, and that will affect your potential approval of that residency application.
Perfect. And then if a person is seeking asylum, has deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA status, or TPS, which is temporary protection services
Status. Mm-hmm.
Status, can they apply for EB3 visa?
I'm very risk adverse when it comes to those cases. If a person does not have a valid status, I don't recommend doing this process. Again, we discussed that discretionary component. Temporary protected status is not a status, even though that's kind of the title of that particular relief. It's basically permission to be here during the authorized stay of that, temporary status or protection. So it's not truly a visa. It's not truly a status. I don't recommend it. Now, if folks are under a valid parole and they're within that status, technically they can do it. I don't recommend it because the timing is just, you can't ensure that it's going to fall in the right timing. So I don't recommend it. I recommend it for folks who are abroad or those who are here with valid status.
Perfect. And then lastly, this is more of like your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If a person that wants to do the EB3 visa, if they are eligible,
Mm-hmm.
if they can find a U.S. sponsor and can pay the fees, do you recommend them doing EB3?
Well, I think EB3 is superior relief to any visa because it leads you to your permanent residency, which is beautiful. It's, an investor's visa or an L1 visa. They do not lead you directly. You can get your residency eventually, but it'll take a few steps to get there. Those are great visas. They're very useful. But EB3 will take you directly to your residency. However, I do need to make clear that the individuals who are going through this process need to really have the intention to work with that potential or that sponsor, because immigration will review your file. They can review your file at any time. So if you're being offered a janitorial position and you take that position, for example, you really need to work there. This is not something that you use to get here and say, you know what, I'm not going to take the job because you are committing fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a real process. So whoever your sponsor is, whether you find that sponsor on your own, whether it's referred to you by a friend, whether you use an agency to help you locate a future employer and help you apply and go through that process, you really need to work with that sponsor, because eventually either your residency can be revoked or you can be placed into removal proceedings, and everybody in your family will be affected by that. So this is not something that you just use to get here. This is the real deal. Any visa you have to comply with. So if you do an investor's visa, you truly have to invest. You truly have to put that company to work. So you really are applying for positions. This is not, whatever it is that, however you get to your sponsor, you really do need to work with your sponsor.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering these questions. Again, this video was just the intention for it was to just give more information about the EB3 visa and just more information about it. So if you have any other questions, please send us your questions or comment down below. All right. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.